Welcome. In this video, we're going to do some file input and output practice. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is go over the algorithm of the program we're going to be doing. So we're going to connect to an input file called uppercaseletters.txt. It's going to be filled with uppercase letters. And then we're going to connect to an output file called lowercaseletters.txt. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to read a bunch of letters from the uppercase letters file, change them to lowercase letters, and put them into the lowercase file. We're going to ask the user how many letters they want to. They're going to give us a number. I called it max. And then we're going to see if we've read enough of those letters. So this will be the start of our loop. And if, for example, if the user enters a 0, that means they don't want to enter any. Then we're going to skip to number 9, close the input and output file. But most likely they're going to give a number. So then we'll read an uppercase letter from the input file, display that onto the screen, change the letter to lowercase, and then save that lowercase letter into our lowercase file, go back to number 4 to see if we've reached our max. So this section right here between 4 and 9 is going to be a loop. We're going to continue. If the user enters 9, we're going to read 9 letters from the file. If the user enters 4, we'll read 4 letters from the file. All right. After we've done that, we're going to close our input and output files. And that is using 2 different files, one for input and one for output. Then we're also going to practice using one file for input and output. We're going to name that file account balance. You're going to connect to the account balance input file, read the number that's in that file, and then you're going to close your input file. So you're going to connect to the file, read the number that's in the file, and then you're going to close it, because now we got our input from that file, but now we want to change what's in that file. So you want to reconnect. Basically, you're going to pretend like this was the balance in your account, and then you're going to add to that balance, and then you're going to update that balance. So I'm going to go ahead and create all of these input and output files, and create the project, and I'm going to do everything in this video. So I think let's just get started. So the first thing I'll do is launch Visual Studio. And while Visual Studio is here launching, I'm going to create a new project. I will make sure that it is an empty project. I'm going to name this project, let's see, file practice. I will make sure that I put my solution in the same directory. I don't need a directory within a directory. I'll just put it on my desktop. So now it's creating my project on my desktop. And now I go to Project, Add New Item, and I will call this code File Practice .c. This is a C course, so we name our code with a C extension. And now, just to make things easier, I have this code here that has a main function. So I'm going to copy and paste this just so I have my, I can add my comment up here. So this is file input and output practice. Of course, I should put my name up here. COP2220. All right. I have my Visual Studio preprocessor directives. Again, these are for Visual Studio. stdio.h is for printf, scanf, and it's also for fscanf, fprintf, fopen, and fclose. So all of those functions are part of stdio.h. And I don't need this, so I'm ready. Let's just make sure that this code compiles, doesn't have any issues. I don't have any weird typos in there. So then we can get started. So this project is saved on my desktop. So here's my project right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the input and output files. So let's remember we have uppercase letters.txt, lowercase letters.txt. I'm not going to create that file. That file is going to be created by my program because it's an output file. So if it doesn't exist, when I use fopen to connect to that file, it will create it for me. So I do need to create this input file, uppercase letters.txt, and I also need to create account balance.txt. And so let's get started. So I'm going to use Notepad to do that. And I'm just going to put a bunch of uppercase letters in here. D, it doesn't really matter. I just want to make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're just going to make sure I have enough in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to tell the user to max has to be 15, but there's more than that in here. So I just put a bunch of uppercase letters, and the name of this file again is going to be uppercase letters spelled this way with a capital L. So I will save this in the same directory as my project. So if I just go to my desktop, here's my project. I will name this with the same name, uppercase letters.txt, and I can double check to make sure that that is here. See, here's my source code file, which if I open this with Notepad, I can see this is my source code, which I haven't written anything yet. And this is my uppercase letters.txt file. And now I need to create my account balance. Too many of these open. Now I need to create my account balance. I want to make sure that I spell this exactly the same. So I'm just going to assume my account has, let's launch Notepad. I'm assuming my account has $45.20 in it. So I got $45.20 in my account. So I'm going to also save this one in the same directory right here that my source code was in, account balance.txt. And now I'm ready to get started. So since I've already written the algorithm here, it's very helpful. I can just take this algorithm and I can copy and paste it as one big comment in my code. And well, first I got to copy it. I don't know what happened here, but copy it and paste it here and just comment it out. And then I can just follow along and implement all of this. Of course, you can do however you want, but this is my choice on remembering how to spell things. Oops, I was using my Mac, so backspace and delete are opposite. All right, so this is how I can remember how to, what I want to do. All right, so let's make sure that it's nothing weird. It says I have errors, but okay, it just was from the pasting. All right, so now the first thing we need to do is we need to declare our variables. So the variables we're going to need an integer for the max. We're also going to need an integer for the iterator for our loop. We're going to need a character for the uppercase and a character for the lowercase. Now, since I'm going to be changing from 2 upper to 2 lower, I also need to include a library that allows me to use those functions. That's ctype.h. That is for the 2 lower function and 2 upper functions. All right, so I need those, and I think I also, so max and I are for my loop. Uppercase is to read the uppercase letter, lower is to read the lowercase letter, and I'm also going to need a double for my balance and the amount that the user is going to want to add to the balance. I'm also going to need 3 4 file pointers. I'm going to need a file pointer and 2 in pointers, in pointer 1, and I'm going to need in pointer 1 for my uppercase letters and out pointer 1. I can name these whatever I want. So those are the file pointers for my in pointer and my out pointer. And then I'm going to need 2 file pointers, which these could all be declared in one line, but this is just to remember. I'm going to need in pointer 2 for my account and out pointer 2. I could name these, I'm just deciding, I like to use in pointer and out pointer because then I remember that I am using an in pointer to read from the file and an out pointer to connect to that I'm going to write to a file. All right, so now I'm ready to do all of my instructions. So the first thing I want to do is I want to connect to the input file. So how do I connect to the input file? I take in pointer 1 and I use the function called fopen. And inside of fopen, I put the name of the file. So I want to make sure that it's spelled correctly. I put that in quotation marks. And then I have to indicate whether I want to read or write from the file. And in this case, I want to read from that file. That is an in pointer. And then I want to connect also to my out pointer. So then I'm going to show you guys something in 1 second. This is the lowercase letters, and I want to write to that file. So the interesting thing here is that, so now I've done these two, connect to the input file, and so I'm going to leave these comments here for you guys. This code is going to be posted on Canvas when I'm finished, so you will have all this. You can follow along, but then you will also have this available to you. So I'm going to test this just to make sure I haven't made any, errors, and run it. All right, it doesn't really do anything yet, but if I navigate here, you will notice that the lowercase letter file, I'm going to delete it just to show you again. So I have the uppercase letter file here because it's full of my uppercase letters and it's an input file. But when I run this, it actually will create the lowercase letter file. See, it was just created just now when I compiled and ran my code. So this example is using a separate input file and a separate output file. So we're going to complete that, and then when we're done with that, we will do another practice where we use the same file as input and output. All right, moving on. Now we want to ask and get how many letters the user would like to read from the file. Now, of course, you should be, I'm just going to say printf how many, but if I was really, if I wanted, I would tell them how many, like you can't be, must be, actually I'll do that, how many letters, and I will just say must be less than, I don't know how many's in there, so let's just assume there's at least 15. All right, so I'm assuming there's at least 15 letters in my file. So I ask and get the number of letters, and then I would scan, use %d, and scan into my variable that I called max up there. So here I'm going to ask the user, how many letters would you like to read from the file? And then I'm going to get that number from the user. I always like to test to make sure that I I've not made any errors. And I do have videos on how to, oops. Let's see, I do have an issue here. Not sure what this linking error is. Let's clean it. Do I have another one? Let's build it. All right. We do have a linking error here. So I did something incorrect. How many letters? And I have scanf. I'm not really sure what the problem is here. Oh, look at that. I spelled printf wrong. All right, so try again. That's what happens when I'm trying to rush. All right, so how many letters? I put in a number. And of course, I could write a loop that would force it to be less than 15. And those are features you can try to add to these code samples. But the focus of this one right now is just file practice. All right. So now I want to check if we read max letters from the file. So what does that mean? So I want to write a loop. I want to write a loop that's going to go for I equals 0, I less than max, I plus plus. So this is a for loop, and this for loop is going to read maximum letters from the file. So you're going to read a letter from the file, and you don't want to close your file pointer inside this loop, because each time you read a letter, you're going to, so what are we going to do in here? We're going to, right here, we're going to read all of that stuff. So inside of our loop, we're going to, read an uppercase letter from the file. Then we're going to display the uppercase letter onto the screen. Then we're going to change the letter to lowercase, and then we're going to save the lowercase letter to the file. So the user's telling us how many, and so now I can delete this from here. Alrighty. Then after the loop, I'm going to close the two file pointers before moving on to the next item. So I can go ahead and add that. And then we have our account balance, which I will do in a second video. All right, so let's check what we're going to do here. Inside this loop, we're going to read an uppercase letter from the file, display the uppercase letter onto the screen, change the letter to lowercase, save that lowercase one into our lowercase letters file, which we've already connected to up here. And then we're going to continue to do that. If they give max is 4, it'll start at 0 and go to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, that's 4 times. All right, so how do we read from a file? You use fscanf. All right, so to read from the file, we're going to use our file pointer. Once you've connected, you don't use the file name anymore. You just put the name of your file pointer. We're going to be reading in a character. So remember, when you're reading in characters, you put a space before the %C. That says to ignore any white space. You would use that with scanf or with fscanf and %C. And we're going to scan into our variable called upper. So we will scan into our variable called upper. We want to make sure that it works, so we will display it onto the screen. Printf, the uppercase letter is %C. I always like to, print onto the screen, get feedback. And I'm going to test this before I move on to the lowercase letter part. So right now, if I enter 4, it should read 4 letters from the file and print them onto the screen. All right, this is just telling me I have variables that I'm not, but I have no errors, so it should work. All right. Oh, so what is my problem here? Oh. Look at that. I forgot my ampersand. Jeez, I'm forgetting all kinds of things. All right, let's try again. It's good when I make mistakes because those are common mistakes that you might be making as well. How many letters? 5. All right, DREWS, it read 5 letters from the file and it seems to be working very well. So now we want to change it to lowercase. So we would say lower equals to lower and pass it the uppercase letter. And then we want to save it into our output file. So the pointer to our output file is called outpointer1. So to save, you just use fprintf and put our file pointer here, and we put the lowercase letter is %C lower. So now what's going to happen is it should, whatever number I put, it should put them into the files. And then let's just close our file pointers. Fclose. In pointer 1 and fclose out pointer 1. All right, so let's test it. I'm going to build it. I'm going to put in, read 6 letters from the file. It reads 6 letters from the file, and then to see if it put the letters into my lowercase letters file, I can check right here, and look at that. And that's working. So this was practice using an input file and an output file separate. And I think I'm just going to continue with this video and do the account balance part. So we did that. We closed our file pointers, and this code will be available for you to practice. So now we want to connect to the account balance file as a input file. So the way we do that is the same way we did up here, only the name of the file is account balance, and we're going to use our file pointer in pointer 2 for this one. So to connect, we just say in pointer 2 equals, and you use the function fopen, the name of the file is accountbalance.txt, and we want to read from the file. All right, so we connected. The next thing we want to do is read the balance from the file. So to read the balance from the file, we use the function fscanf. Fscanf, we're reading a double, so we would use the name of our pointer here. You have to say which file we want to read from. And you have to make sure that the data in your file matches the data type that you're reading into. Our file, if I take a look at my account balance file, it has a double in there, so it does match the same data type. So I would use %LF, which is what you use for double, and we're going to read into our variable called balance, which I've declared up there. So we're going to read it, and now we want to display the balance. All right, printf the current balance is, %.2f is usually what you use for money, so that's what I would put. And we want to make sure that this works. All right. So we did that. All right. We also want to close our, actually, after we read from the file, we actually should close our pointer. So let's close our, we want to close the input pointer because we want to open it up again to put the new balance in there. So we want to close it. We want to read from it, close it, and then we're going to reconnect to the same file, only, oh, I didn't put a capital P there. All right, let me fix that. That's going to bother me. All right. This needs a capital P to be consistent. All right, so we're going to connect to our account balance file, read into the balance, close that because we want to connect later and put the new balance and display the balance on the screen. So let's get rid of all of these instructions that we've done so far, and then this is all we will have left to do after. So let's just, we're going to ask and get that. We're going to add the amount. We're going to connect to the output file. We're going to save the new balance and then close that one. All right. So let's test to make sure. Again, I have not commented out, so we're going to still have to do the letter part again, but that's okay. 2 letters, that's fine. The current balance is $45.20. So it is connecting. So now we just want to ask and get the amount from the user. Printf, how much do you want to add? Alrighty, and we have to scan in, scanf, %LF into the amount, and then we have to add it. So then we want to say the balance equals the balance plus the amount. So we added it. Now we want to connect. We could print that onto the screen just to print it again, just to test it. All right, so let's just go over what we did. We connect to the, and read from the account balance file. We get the balance that was in the file. Then we close our end pointer. We close our reading pointer. Then we print the balance onto the screen. We ask the user how much they would like to add. We add the amount the user gives us to the balance and then assign that new amount to the balance. And then we're going to print the new balance onto the screen. So I'll say the new balance. So let's test it. All right, just do 2 letters. All right, the current balance is $45.20. I want to add $100.30. All right, so the new balance is $145.50. So that's working. So the last thing we need to do is connect to the file. Only this time we want to connect with our out pointer. Out pointer 2 equals fopen. It's the same file. This because in this case we are reading and writing from the same file. But this one's for writing. I am going to demonstrate if I put the wrong name, it should not be able to find it. So let's test that. So this should crash because, oh no, this would just create a new file. Sorry, oops. This one, when you're connecting to read from a file, this one. So if you're connecting to write, if it has a different name, it'll just create it. But this one, if you're connecting to read, it should crash because it should not find it. So let's test that. All right. Do you see this crash? It crashed because I'm trying to read from a file that does not exist. If you're trying to write to a file, if it does not exist, it will just create that file. So what do I have to do here? Is I have to make sure that my input, any file that I'm reading from, has the exact name and spelling exactly the same as the input file that's in my project. So that's why I was very careful to make sure that I spelled the file exactly right, account balance. All right, so the last thing we need to do is connect, and we're going to save the new balance in there. So we're going to do fprintf. Since we might reuse this, we don't want to put any words in there because this is our, we're pretending this is our account. So all we're going to do is we're not going to put a sentence or anything. We're just going to put the new account balance in there. So it's going to start with just a plain double in it, and then it's going to end with a plain double in it. So we just use %LF, and I messed up again. It should just be %F for printf and %LF for scanf. That's the standard. And so we're going to print the balance. That's the variable we want to print, not the amount. And then we want to close our pointer. You always want to, even though at the end of your program your pointer should get closed, I always like to be thorough and close my pointers. And in this example, I have closed pointers. I closed this pointer because we connected for input here, and then we closed it because now we want to reconnect to the same file but for output. So I'm going to put a large amount so you can see the difference. All right, let's do 9 letters. So we did 9 letters. Okay, now I want to add $432.98. All right, so the new balance is $478.18. And if I navigate to my file here, it should have the new balance in there, $478.18. And I didn't format it to 2 decimal places, but that's okay. So now if I run the program again, you'll notice this time when it connects, it's got the new balance. And of course, if this was an account, you would either add or subtract or whatever, but this is just an exercise on file practice. So I hope that all of this will be posted so you can do your own practice. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask me any questions.